Chapter. I think, said Carol Whiteskin, that although judgment was given against Fionn, it was Fionn had the rights of it. He had 1100 killed, said Conan amiably, and you may call that the rights of it if you like. All the same, Carol began argumentatively. And it was you that commenced it, Conan continued. Ho! Ho! Carol cried. Why, you are as much to blame as I am. No, said Conan, for you hit me first. And if we had not been separated, the other growled. Separated, said Conan, with a grin that made his beard bow all around his face. Yes, separated. If they had not come between us, I still think, don't think out loud, dear heart, for you and I are at peace by law. That is true, said Carol, and a man must stick by a judgment. Come with me, my dear, and let us see how the youngsters are shaping in the school. One of them is rather away with him as a swordsman. No youngster is any good with a sword, Conan replied. You are right there, said Carol. It takes a good ripe man for that weapon. Boys are good enough with slings, Confro continued, but except for eating their fill and running away from a fight, you can't count on boys. The two bulky men turned towards the school of the Fianna. It happened that Fionn Macuil had summoned the gentlemen of the Fianna and their wives to a banquet. Everybody came, for a banquet given by Fionn was not a thing to be missed. There was Golmore Macmorna and his people, Fionn's son Oisin and his grandson Oscar. There was Dermot of the Gay Face, Silt Macronan, but indeed they were too many to be told of, for all the pillars of war and battle torches of the Gael were there. The banquet began. Fionn sat in the chief captain's seat in the middle of the fort, and facing him, in the place of honour, he placed the mirthful Gol Macmorna, and from these, ranging on either side, the nobles of the Fianna took each the place that fitted his degree and patrimony. After good eating, good conversation, and after good conversation, sleep, that is the order of a banquet. So when each person had been served with food to the limit of desire, the butlers carried and shining, and jewel drinking horns, each having its tide of smooth, heady liquor. Then the young heroes grew merry and audacious, the ladies became gentle and kind, and the poets became wonders of knowledge and prophecy. Every eye beamed in that assembly, and on Fionn every eye was turned continually in the hope of a glance from the great, mild hero. Goll spoke to him across the table enthusiastically. There is nothing wanting to this banquet, O chief, said he. And Fionn smiled back into the eye which seemed a well of tenderness and friendship. Nothing is wanting, he replied, but a well-shaped poem. A crier stood up then, holding in one hand a length of coarse iron links and in the other a chain of delicate, antique silver. He shook the iron chain so that the servants and followers of the household should be silent, and he shook the silver one so that the nobles and poets should hearken also. Fergus, called Truelibs, the poet of the Fianna Finn, then sang of Fionn and his ancestors and their deeds. When he had finished, Fionn and Oisin and Oscar Macugach of the Terrible Hand gave him rare and costly presents, so that every person wondered at their munificence, and even the poet, accustomed to the liberality of kings and princes, was astonished at his gifts. Fergus then turned to the side of Gol Macmorna, and he sang of the forts, the destructions, the raids, and the wooings of Clan Morna, and as the poems succeeded each other, Gol grew more and more jovial and contented. When the songs were finished, Gol turned in his seat. Where is my runner? He cried. He had a woman runner, a marvel for swiftness and trust. She stepped forward. I am here, royal captain. Have you collected my tribute from Denmark? It is here. And, with help, she laid beside him the load of 3 men of doubly refined gold. Out of this treasure, and from the treasure of rings and bracelets and talks that were with him, Gol Macmorna paid Fergus for his songs, and, much as Fionn had given, Gol gave twice as much. But, as the banquet proceeded, Gol gave, whether it was to harpers or prophets or jugglers, more than anyone else gave, so that Fionn became displeased, and as the banquet proceeded he grew stern and silent. Chapter 2. This version of the death of Uail is not correct. Also Knocker is not in Lachlan but in Ireland. The wonderful gift-giving of God continued, and an uneasiness and embarrassment began to creep through the great banqueting hall. Gentlemen looked at each other questioningly, and then spoke again on indifferent matters, but only with half of their minds. The singers, the harpers, and jugglers submitted to that constraint, so that every person felt awkward and no one knew what should be done or what would happen, and from that doubt dulness,